Start her up.
Hey guys, George here, back with another train video or train stream. Today, man, do we have a show for you?
Yes, we do. But before we get on with the show, we got to introduce ourselves. This is George.
I'm George, otherwise known as GFW Trains.
And I'm Wally. I'm the guy who takes GFW Trains places. And we're here with a great show for you today. And on our live stream, we talk about everything.
But mostly trains.
Right. So cool live stream. I'm really excited about this. Aren't you, George?
Oh, yeah, I'm psyched, man. I'm going to have a really cool time. Got a really cool guest on the stream today.
Dream Layouts.
Jim
Williams.
Yes. He's helping us build our second level on our layout, and we got to talking to him. And he's like, "Do you want to be on the stream?"
He's
yes.
And not only that, I'm trying to talk him into being on multiple streams because he's got so many good stories to tell, so many cool layouts to show, George. It's going to be great. I can't wait to have him on. Such a nice guy too.
Oh yeah, real nice guy. He's definitely got a lot of cool train stories. That's for sure.
For sure. He's got his finger in all kinds of little different train things, right?
Yeah. Oh yes. I mean, and it's just not train things too. It's just like everything. He knows a lot about everything. Like before the stream, he's telling us about this blue screen that he put up behind him for this really cool backdrop that he had put up behind him for that says Dream Layouts on. It's really cool.
Right. So welcome everybody to the stream. It's great to see you. I hope you're having a great weekend. Well, start to the weekend. A fast Friday. Good way, gateway to the weekend, right?
Yes, sir.
So kick back, relax, grab some of your favorite beverage, some iced tea or whatever else you're drinking, and enjoying GFW Trains on another episode of GFW Trains live
Streams.
Running trains with friends.
That's
that
right.
You guys. Right. So St. Patrick's Day is around the corner too, right?
Oh yes.
So we got kind of a little St. Patrick's Day,
the Patty's
going
Day
on.
special.
Right. So George and I have on our Somerset Trainmasters shirts. George, tell us a little bit about the Somerset Trainmasters.
So the Somerset Trainmasters is a 4-H group out in New Jersey. They are through the Somerset County, or they are located in the Somerset County area of New Jersey. And they have a really cool O-scale modular layout. It's all through the club.
Are they in New Jersey?
Did I say that?
In Somerset County? You said it like 3 times.
Well, my man, just want to get the word out.
Well, they say you got to say something like 4 or 5 times for you to remember it, right?
Yeah.
So Somerset County 4-H.
You say that all the time.
I know I say that all the time.
Anyway.
And you remember. Yes. Parenting win, everybody. Parenting win.
Anyway, so they have a really cool O-scale modular layout that is actually I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I wish they had something like this in Chicago, because boy, oh boy, was that definitely something that I enjoyed. So we met them in 2018. We went to the National Toy Train Convention, or the National TCA, or the Train Collectors Association's National Convention in 2018 in Providence, Rhode Island.
Mm-hmm.
And we were there, right? And I forget somebody mentioned to us. I think I forget his name. But he was running the convention, or at least big part of running the convention. It's like, hey, we met him. He's like, hey, George, there's a guy, or there's a club here. I think you'd really enjoy this. We're an O-scale, part of 4-H. But just imagine in this, like in a New Jersey accent.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyways, he introduced me to them, and oh my gosh, it was like match made in heaven. So as some of you may know, we are a part of the Midwest division of the Train Collectors Association's modular layout, and we've been a part, or he's been a part since the start, and I've been a part. I've been going for forever,
Whole life.
Yeah, whole life, and so anyways, they use the same standards on their modules as I did, or that as we do on ours. And so basically, it was really cool. They like, I mean, honestly, when I first showed up, I think they thought I was like, just a newbie, and man, I was teaching them things about it. It was really cool. But yeah, and so anyways, I spent the entire week with them. We were running trains. Oh man, I made some really, really cool friends. And actually, I think there are a couple of them on here. One of them that pops on every once in a while is Train Guy 75. I met him down there. There's another guy. He takes really cool pictures on Instagram. It's like Luke Philip Productions, and he does really cool like pictures on Instagram of he does a lot of Norfolk and Southern stuff, since that's what's runs by his house. And he does New Jersey Transit, big New Jersey Transit guy. But anyways, once we were done with the
Gotta check the couplers on that.
it's the electrocoupler.
I know. No, the impact sensors. The hard hit.
Bruh. Anyways, so once we were done, I was kind of sad. I didn't want to leave those guys because they were like the first set of train guys my age that I had met. And I don't know, I will always remember that feeling like of being around fellow train people my age. I spent the entire week with them, and I made some really good friends. And actually, I think it was before we even before you and me started doing the videos together, there's a video on the YouTube channel called Rail Fanning with Friends, and that was with them out in Providence, Rhode Island. That I was rail fanning with them. It was one of the very first times I legitimately went out to rail fan. One of the very first times I was rail fanning with friends, and it was a different state. Although it was all like Amtrak and MBTA stuff, I had a blast, man. We went out to eat after that. We went out to hobby shops, and then right after that, we went back to run trains on the modular lab. So anyways, that's what these guys are from. If you're in the Somerset County area, I suggest you check them out and are under 18, because boy, oh boy, is it really, really cool. You have to make your own module, and each year you have to do something cool to it. So, man. Oh, and when we came back, I was sad. We made all these plans, to come see each other. And unfortunately, those kind of faded away. But one of the adults in the group, his name was Mr. Jim. He sent us these shirts.
Boom.
So,
boom. We have to show them what the back says, too. The back is pretty cool.
I got you. Boom. There you go.
Yeah, no, fun group. It was so neat. It was one of George's first opportunities to hook up with some peers his age that were as crazy about trains as he is. So it was really neat. It was funny part is I was talking to these adults, and they were telling me about how they had this kids group from the Somerset County 4-H coming in. They were building a modular layout. I was like, oh, that's really neat. Maybe my son could hook up with them. He likes trains because we didn't know each other very well. They were guys from around the country. And he was kind of like, I don't know. They're pretty into trains, and this modular layout's pretty complex. I was like, all right, we'll let you meet George, and you can decide. Anyway, George saw the layout, and he was like, oh, I got this. Within seconds,
dude, they were showing me how to do it, and I was like, oh yeah, I know. Yes, I know. Oh, hey, and then when I mentioned that I had a couple of modules, they were all like, because I said that I mentioned something about having one module, and they're like, oh, that's really cool. And then I brought up the fact that I had 4, and their heads exploded.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
and it's pretty neat because they actually work on their module as a 4-H project as they move forward in their 4-H group throughout the age and the period of time that they're in 4-H.
Yeah, so I think like the first year you have to build the module, get the track laid. Second year, and put scenery. Second year you have to I think put some sort of scenic thing on there. So I have a friend who put in a really cool. This was after I left, but he made a really cool. Him and his friends, as there's I think it's actually the second year was a scenic thing. Third year I think you had to do something with something from scratch and put it on there. And these guys did a really cool thing where they had a series of 4 modules, and they made a really cool ON30 layout on these modules. that like went from, so they had a spur, O-scale spur that came out, right? And have you ever seen those things where they drop the cars off? The trucks like go underneath and they have the cars and they put the small little HO scale cars underneath, or like wheels or narrow gauge wheels.
Sure, right.
They built one of those, and then they had this really cool HO scale or ON30 scale layout that was running around these modules. And holy moly, they sent me pictures. Really, really cool.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So that's been really fun to get involved with the train hobby that way, hasn't it?
Oh yes, definitely. Man, oh man, it was a really cool experience just connecting with those guys.
Welcome to everybody who's just coming in. If you're just coming in, welcome to GFW Livestream. There's a lot of new names coming here. I'm Wally. This is George.
Otherwise known as GFW Trains.
Otherwise known as GFW Trains.
And this is Waldozer Productions.
I'm the guy that takes GFW Trains places.
Yes.
Just the guy who takes GFW Trains places. And we on our live stream, we talk about everything.
But mostly trains.
Right on, right on. So yeah, and also do me a huge favor, if you're just through the door, can you go down below and smash that like button? It really helps us out a lot, doesn't it, George?
Oh yes, definitely. It helps us a lot just promoting everything with the algorithm.
The algorithm shoots out our live stream, and people who aren't on here today, it'll get reminded through the browse feature. So please do that if you haven't already. Smash that like button for us. That's big for us. But I'm going to get to my usual speech that I give every time that we're on these live streams. And I usually do it a little bit later. Right? No. So George and I have been doing these live streams, and I think this is our 105th one, right?
Oh, wow.
105th live stream. We started doing it just about a year ago. In fact, our year anniversary is going to be here in a couple of weeks. A year after the first live stream that we did. I think the first live stream that we did was on March 14th.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a while ago.
Yep.
So I remember yesterday was the day before everything changed in our lives.
Right.
We were in school without masks on. It was at track practice, and my friend got a text from his dad, who's like the regional superintendent or whatever, and he goes, "Yeah, we're out for school," and we were all celebrating. Well, look where that got now. But yeah.
But anyway, we started these live streams out. When that happened, we just started. We did our first live stream, and then all of a sudden, the world closed down. And George and I basically were kind of stuck.
We did live streams, and it was the only thing keeping us sane.
Right. So we did a live stream for every day for about 3 months. Well, about 2 months, 2.5 months. And anyway, it was really neat because one of the things that we did was, as we were doing these live streams, people would be coming on the show just like you guys are. They'd come on the show. We'd get a chance to talk. We'd get a chance to meet. And a really cool community came together, didn't it, George?
Yeah, man. Some of the really cool people that first joined in, so just like really cool friends of ours. Actually, they became really good friends of ours. I know somebody that started watching early on, who is on the stream right now, is Ours Trains.
Oh, right.
We met him. We were able to connect. And he's got a really cool YouTube channel, and we just kind of merged. We had him on our live stream, and
we had a collab right off the bat with him, right?
Oh yeah. Oh man, he such a great guy. But yeah, Corey.
So anyway, we did that, and got the ball rolling, and there was a lot of momentum. It was a lot of fun, and we're trying to keep things going. And so we thought, how do we keep that conversation going? We started up a Discord. Corey's idea, he said, start up this Discord. We started up the Discord. And anyway, it's been really neat. We've gotten a really neat flow in this community. And not only that, but it opened the eyes to a bunch of different people in this community of all of the other great content creators on YouTube in model trains and on YouTube. Right, George?
Yeah, that's definitely true. I think there's a lot of really cool people. And I think they say for a dying hobby, it's just kind of, I don't think it's dying as fast as everybody says it is. I just think it's more of an...
Even then, George, it's not dying. I think that there's a chance for you younger guys to get a spark to this. And that's what the cool part of, I think, this YouTube community is, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that, it's just kind of the model trains is kind of an introverted hobby. And I think this YouTube thing is kind of given a chance for everybody, an opportunity for everybody to kind of connect on.
Right. No. And it's really cool. So I want, in fact, I I would like everybody, I'd request everybody to please support each other. Check out everybody's channels. Check them out. Watch their YouTube channels. Subscribe, comment, like their YouTube videos. I think it's really important if all of us in the hobby want to keep this ball rolling. And it's neat because I think that the stay-at-home has brought a really neat synergy to everything that we're doing. And it's brought in our hobby a lot closer together. There have been a lot of bad things about quarantine and stay-at-home and all of this stuff. But I truly believe that this is one of the cool ones.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think one cool part about quarantine is we've gotten a lot of cool trains. We've made a lot of cool friends.
That's for sure. That's for sure. So, all right, we're going to do things a little bit different today, I think. And usually when people come in the door, we welcome them in the door and we give them a whistle and everything like that. And I would like to welcome everybody that's here, wouldn't we, George? Welcome to the GFW Trains live stream. But rather than going through and giving everybody a whistle, we'd like to say hello to everybody. And as you're going through, I'll try and put up your comments up here. Try and put your comments as we're going along, just like I put up Train Finder Craig's here. But I don't want to dawdle around anymore because we have got the neatest person waiting to come in the studio right now. And I really would like to get him in and get this train rolling here, George.
Roll. Oh, yeah. Is that pun intended?
That was a pun intended. So, yeah. So without any further ado, actually, George, we should talk a little bit before we bring him in. So Jim Williams is a friend of mine that I know from the Train Collectors Association. That's how we met. We were in the Train Collectors Association together, and we've got a lot of friends together in the mutual friends together in the Train Collectors Association. We met there, and the friendship between us kind of blossomed from there, and it was neat because he had a friend group, I had a friend group, and we both kind of merged or at least welcomed each other into the friend groups. And it's pretty neat because Jim doesn't live too far away, and a lot of his friends are also local guys around here too. But anyway, the cool part about Jim is a world-class layout builder, and he's come today to share some of these layouts that he's built around the country. His company is called Dream Layouts, and I'll let you see and I'll let him explain the slogan to Dream Layouts. But he's brought a lot of layouts to share. And it's really exciting to have him on the show, isn't it, George?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So without any further ado, I would like to welcome Jim Williams onto the show.
Hi, guys.
Whoa. Hey, Jim, welcome to the stream.
Juan, I want to thank you very much. That was a wonderful introduction, Wally and George. I appreciate it so much. You guys say a lot of good things for the hobby. It's kind of the same thing I always tell people. You know, we got to keep this hobby going. It's the best hobby that, as far as me, I've had a lot of hobbies, but it's the best hobby I've had in my entire life. And I started out when I was 7 years old. I got a train set from my mom and dad, little N-scale train set, and that started the whole ball rolling for me. And I've been going at it ever since. I got my fingers in about everything there is to do with trains, or try to anyway. I play with model trains. I play with real trains. I work on real trains. It's a lot of fun. I've had a lot of fun, and I got to say, after just last week when me and you talked earlier, Wally, during the week, I've been checking out a lot of these guys' YouTube channel, as you said, and I tell you what, it really gets me going when I see a lot of these young guys showing off their layouts on YouTube and all the neat things they're doing. The hobby's not dead, that's for sure, but we older guys want to do everything we can to get the younger guys into this hobby, keep them going, and keep that spark of interest going, because they're the ones who are going to carry this on and keep it going for generations. And I'll tell you what, it's a wonderful hobby. I've said this many a times over and over and over. So with that, I've got a lot of pictures to show tonight, but I think I got about 240 pictures.
240 pictures.
Yeah, I found
another. Stop showing the machine gun those. Do you realize if you showed a picture every 30 seconds? Every 30 seconds, we would be on. Well, that's great, though.
I found another layout that I did. So I got 14 different layouts in here. Some of these layouts are gone. Some of the owners are not with us anymore. But it kind of gives you an idea of the extent and the variety of layouts that I've done over the years, and not just in one scale. I started out, like I said, in N scale, and I went to HO. From HO, I went to garden scale because I was a two-railer. And I think it was I think the early '90s. My father got back into the three-rail hobby, and when Lionel started doing their command control, and he bought a fabulous passenger train. And I can still remember the day we put all the track together on the floor around the pool table at his house, and we were like two little kids watching trains run around the floor. And since then, we built a big layout for him, and we built actually two layouts for him. And how Dream Layouts really got started was about 12 years ago. Everybody was kind of watching me and my father build his layout, his current layout that he has, and they were saying, "Wow, this must be great to have a son that can help you along and do all this stuff." And they were kind of jealous in a way. And I'm like, "Wait a minute, maybe I should become like a rent-a-son or something." You know, I go out and help people with their layout. And at the time, I was trying to find a club to join so I could just kind of dabble in working under. I like working under layouts. I'm a construction electrician by trade. Been an electrician for 40 years or 30 some years now, and
well, as Tim Brooks likes to put it, electrical engineer.
Yeah, they call me an electrical engineer. I'm not an electrical engineer. I'm a construction electrician. But I've worked on all kinds of projects all over the years. Some big, huge projects in Chicago, and I've done a lot of high-tech energy management systems and stuff like that, where you get into the digital control. And so that really helped out a lot for me working in trains when trains went to command control and got into really neat digital control stuff. And so it excited me again in the hobby too. So I started Dream Layouts because other people wanted my talent, wanted me to go out and help them. And I'm like, it was a perfect fit for me. So I've helped people from, I think, 5 years old. We built some toy train layouts for a 5-year-old, and I've made 90-year-old guys little kids again by helping them rewire and build their layouts and get it to where they want it. I've done a lot of public displays and all kinds of stuff. So without all this talking, I could probably do the talking while we're showing the pictures. But if there's anything,
Jim, before you start showing the pictures, so Dream Layouts, let's talk about Dream Layouts, where it's at right now, and your thoughts about and everything like this.
Well, Dream Layouts, like I said, when it started 12 years ago, I was into a full-service layout builder. I could design, build, finish, and deliver completed layouts. I haven't done a lot of completed layouts from the ground up, but people wanted me for wiring. They saw what I could do in control panels. I used to build custom control panels for people that they could take and control everything on their layout through a control panel. I got into building custom signals out of brass and making them work, and I would design the custom electronics to go along with them. Basically, what happened with Dream Layouts is, and why I call it Dream Layouts, is because other people would tell me, well, I talked to this one guy and he said it's not possible, you can't do it. And I'm like, well, that's baloney. That's just wrong. Dream Layouts is, if you can dream it, I'll make it happen one way or another.
So I love that, because that seems to be a resonating theme. Last week we had Jason from JD Stuck's the YouTube channel on here, and he said the same thing. Anytime somebody told him not to do something, it was like, challenge accepted. And you came over the very next day, and we talked about that. We talked about that a lot.
Yep, I watched that stream. Jason's a wonderful guy. I'm glad I finally got to meet him. He watched a lot of the stuff going on with my dad's layout and with Rich Batista in the Toy Trains on Tracks. He did with the Black Diamond Railway. He did a fabulous job, and he was an inspiration for a lot of people. He's a wonderful man. I've met him before, and he's just a really nice guy. So there's a lot of people like that in this hobby. And the more you stay involved and the more you get around, go to train shows and different events, you meet some of these people. And you realize you might know them from other places, but that's kind of cool with this online community now, because we can meet everybody. I mean, there's people that are on our stream tonight that are watching, that are in the comments, but we don't know them. But if you go check out their channel, you get to know them a little better. And that's what I kind of like about this digital community, because I can go check out all you guys' channels, and I love it. I see what you guys are doing.
Isn't that cool? Isn't that cool? So, all right, we were talking about all these videos, but you're old time in videoing. You've been on videos for a long, even before YouTube started to come online. Now, he's come over to our house a couple of times, and hung out with him, worked on train layouts, our train layout down here. And we've watched a bunch of videos. And how many videos did we see Jim in?
Almost every single one of them had, if it didn't have Jim Williams in the video, it had Jim Williams in the credits.
So, Jim, how many TM videos would you say that you or one of your layouts was in?
Oh, golly. Well, I got a list right here. So we've got, let's see here. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, and another thing, too, while he's counting.
There's probably about 7 layouts that I've gotten TM videos that I've helped on.
That's crazy.
I've actually been on the video. 3 different videos I've been on, I believe. You'll see this goofy face in there, but it's a lot of fun.
And to that vein, off of JD Stocks, who was just in the last Classic Toy Trains, how many Classic Toy Trains have your layouts been in?
My dad.
Actually, let me back up. How many train magazines? So Classic Toy Trains, O-Gauge Model Railroad.
Okay, well, first of all, my dad was in July, Classic Toy Trains of July of 2020. I think a guy that you did a video of his layout, Stan Ludwikowski, he was on September of 2020. Now, these were both cover photos and feature articles, just like that Jason was on. And another layout that I'm going to show tonight, Jack Phelan. Jack Phelan's layout's been in Classic Toy Trains, best toy train layouts as a featured layout in the post-war era. And then I had an article I had published way back in 2012 in OGR magazine. It was Helpful Tips in the Back, and it was recovering Jack Phelan's layout, where I talked about his wonderful switch covers that he had to hide his switch motors for the Lionel switches. So we've had a few articles published over the years from different layouts we've had that owners have wanted to take and pursue the idea of getting into the magazine. Everybody knows somebody, and you keep this network of people that you meet at the train shows, from publishers and editors and all the connections, and you make that work, and you go back and say, hey, we got something that we want to show you guys. We got a nice train layout, and this is the same way we did it with TM videos. I call up Tom McComas, who owns TM videos, and say, hey, look, Tom, I got some great material here for you. Would you be interested? And that's how we did a lot of these. So, and it's never too late. These guys are still in business. They're still doing it. So don't give up the dream. I know when I was a teenager, I lived in Wichita, Kansas. I was into HO trains at the time, and I built. I think we were building a 4x8 cookie cutter from one of the Atlas plan books. And my neighbor next door, he was a year younger than I was. He was into model trains and comic books like I was. And our dream back then as teenagers was to do something really cool and submit an article with pictures to Model Railroader magazine. And that never happened because I ended up moving, and we broke apart, and things change and life gets in the way. But I always thought it was cool for seeing something that, in a magazine or in a video, so that was really cool. So it was really awesome to see Jason last week got his layout in the magazine. That was awesome.
Right. So George, what he's trying to say is that he's kind of a big deal.
It's not about being a big deal, guys. It's about
just a little bit.
Jim, I digress on one thing. So George and I spent 10 minutes talking about the Somerset County 4-H guys with these shirts on. And we forgot what the point of that was. The point, I laugh, Jim. This is why George and I make 25 cents every 3 months doing this. The reason why we're wearing these shirts is because of St. Patrick's Day. And we have a special trade on tonight.
Day special.
We've got our St. Patrick's Day special, which is the Polar Express, which isn't exactly a St. Patrick's Day train, but it's our only holiday themed train. So we're going with that. And it's pulling all green cars. So anyway, I had to put that in there just because I'm not that smart. And I forgot to put that in there before I pivoted to our next thing. So there we go. Oh, and don't forget to smash that like button. Right, George? All right. So, Jim, show us some of these really cool layouts that you got.
Okay, so let me see here if I can get this going here. Let's see here. Which one am I doing here? Give me a second here. I thought I had this figured out, but
No problem. No problem.
I've got to go to.
So as you're figuring that out, George, why don't you tell us what else, or George can tell everybody what else we're running here tonight.
So we've got the Patty's or the St. Patty's Day special, which is being pulled by the Polar Express, and then we've got an engine that hasn't really seen the live streams much in the past. I mean, in a while now. I think it's been a couple of live streams since this engine's. This engine's been on the stream, but we have the Vision Line Big Boy running around with my PFE train that I've been gradually collecting over the past couple of months. But yeah, so we got the PFE train, and then the specialty of the train, which I just took off, is the Vision Line Reefer cars. It's giving me problems with the electrocoupler though. It won't go around the track without it undoing itself. So I'm just gonna put this to the side real quick.
So I'll put up your screen here real quick. But my dad, OG George, had a question. Says, Jim, when you start building a layout in the design stage, what do you look for first? Is it how the future owner wants to operate, or the scenery design that's going to make the layout theme?
Well, when I first start a layout consultation with somebody, they call me for a reason. I never advertise my business. I always go by word of mouth. So it was always they called or they were referred by a hobby shop in the Chicagoland area. So what would happen is I would ask them basically what they want to get out of their layout. And there's a lot of things involved in that. Space is one of the things. There's lots of different types of way to operate the trains. You want to run them with the old-fashioned way, what we call conventional control with the throttles on the transformers, or do you want to run a command control, or do you want to run it both? Like I say, dream layouts, we never stopped anybody from doing anything they wanted. If you wanted to go both ways, command control or conventional control, we made that happen. We built some big layouts that the owners had the old conventional engines, and a lot of times they're post-war engines from when they were younger, and they wanted to be able to run those on their big layouts. So we made that possible so anybody could do that. But, you know, I use special computer software for designing track plans and layout and bench work. And basically, whatever the customer wanted, I would always inject as many ideas as possible. I never pushed the fact that we had a certain time frame. All my consultations were usually free. I mean, we don't charge for stuff like that. I'm always open to talk. We can discuss it, think about it, let me know when you're ready. But, you know, there's so many different aspects to building a layout. And a lot of people, the reason they call somebody like me is they really don't know where to start or don't know how to finish. A lot of people get it started and don't know how to finish it. You know, so I was there kind of like I said before, I was kind of like a rent-a-son that I've done a lot of train layouts and been in trains most of my life. I was there to help them out. And then whenever they were ready to go forward, we would take whatever and I would design all that. And then I would give them a proposal for the work we would do and go forward with that. And if they weren't happy and they wanted to change, that was never a problem. A lot of people change their mind or get different ideas as we go forward. And so, you know, one thing about building the train layout, you can have, they say they're never done. And that's true. They're really never done. You can always find more things to do. But you can always change things too. I know a lot of people that started train layouts and changed in the middle because they realized this isn't quite what I want to do, or I found a new interest now and I want to do this. So you have to be real flexible building layouts for people, and you have to have an open mind. But like I say, the end reward for this business is getting to see people enjoy this hobby, enjoy their trains. When they can turn on their trains and operate them around the layout that they've created or that we built for them, that's the joy in it. It's just like when I work on real trains, when I have passengers on rail cars. You know, I used to work on passenger cars, and I get to see these people enjoy it. And that was really all the hard work we put into it. That was the joy. That was the special part of the business, getting people to enjoy what they're doing and what they have. So
Jim, real quick here, I had a couple of questions, and then let's get rolling on some of these pictures. And maybe one of these pictures or one of these questions can be answered through the pictures. But before you get rolling on the pictures, one of the questions was if somebody were wanting to get in touch with you, how would they get in touch with you? In fact, I saw somebody saying that they need some help with control panel, or do you have a website, or how would one get in touch with you? And for those that are out there, Jim isn't one that's out there advertising about it. He's all basically kind of known through word of mouth. So he's got all of the work that he can handle, but he's always up for more with a smile on his face. So that said, Jim, if somebody wanted to contact you, how would they get a hold of you?
Well, I have a website out there. It's called Chugman6 at wordpress.com, I believe it is. And that will get you onto my website. It will show you my control. I have a catalog out there. It shows all the control panels, designs that I've built over the years. It also says what I'm working on right now. Because of my my physical disabilities right now, I'm not able to actually physically work on a lot of train layouts underneath because I'm getting to the age where my knees have given out and I can't get down on the floor anymore. So I still do consulting. I still will help people with ideas and layout designs. I do custom signals, custom electronic circuits. I have a lot of custom circuits that I have in files on my computer. If anybody needs help how to wire things, and it's also listed on my website. You can actually download a catalog of all the control panels information that I have. We haven't built any control panels in a while because a lot of people are doing all this now on Wi-Fi, and they're doing everything with a remote control or their smart device. So the control panels, I haven't really done a lot of the control panels lately.
So Jim, the best way to get in touch with you is to look up your website?
Yeah, I would say just go to Chugman6 at wordpress.com, and it's got my phone number and my email address on there.
So that's not a website, though.
I'm sorry?
Chugman6 at wordpress.com is not a website, is it? So is it Chugman6, then the AT, or?
Well, I'd have to look it up and verify it for you, but it is, I think it's Chugman6 at wordpress.com.
Okay.
But if that doesn't work, you can always get me. I have a YouTube channel called IBEW701. They can look at all my videos. I'm going to have, and as I show these slides tonight, the title on each of these layouts, they'll have a. Well, here I'll move to the next. I'll move to the next slide so you can see what I'm talking about. So, for example, this first toy train layout that I'm going to talk about, you'll see that view my video on YouTube channel. So when you see these on the titles, there is a YouTube video on my channel that you can actually look at this layout as a video besides the pictures I'm going to show of it. So that'll give you an idea. There you can. I will start responding on the chats now. I found out last week, Jason, he asked me a question 11 years ago on a video that I did on my dad's layout, and I never responded. And I told him I'm sorry, and I answered the question for him. So I'll get better at doing this. I haven't been at this for a while as far as doing the videos. So.
And for those of you, real quick, for those of you that want his website, it wasn't what he had said, but I'm about ready to put it up on the live stream right now. So it is chugman6.wordpress.com.
That sounds right.
So there you go. I just got it up on the stream what the website is. So all right, let's see what we got here for these layouts, Jim.
Okay, so like I said, as we go through this, there'll be a slide here, and I tried to keep the title of this slide so it matches the video on my YouTube. But this layout was started before I actually started Dream Layouts. It was probably one of the very first layouts that I worked at in the Chicagoland area. It was a referral from one of the hobby shops here in town, from Berwyn Hobbies. I got a lot of work from Berwyn Hobbies, Chicagoland Hobbies, America's Best, and I got a lot of referrals from some of the other hobby shops too. But once these people know you and they start seeing the work you do, it takes off. So this was a gentleman that was retired. His sons contacted me, said that they wanted me to help their dad finish putting a second level on his train table. It was all post-war. He didn't give me a lot of space to work with, but he had track. He had tubular track. He had Johnson a rubber road bed. They don't make that anymore, but Johnson rubber road bed is you could take that Lionel tubular track and you could kind of snap it down into the rubber road bed and it kind of quieted down your trains. So this was the design of the layout that he had with the track that he had, and he wanted an upper line on that. So no problem. We designed the upper line. Basically, it was just an upper deck, but on the upper deck, he didn't really have any ideas what he wanted to do. He just knew that he had a lot of these Department 56 buildings. And so I said, well, we can always add a little more fun to it. There's a company out there called K-Line at the time when they were in business, made a product called Super Streets. And he had a trolley. I says, why don't we put Super Streets up there and make a little S-curve and kind of situate all your buildings around that street so it looks like the trolley's going back and forth on a bump and go operation. And he liked the idea, so we did that. And as you can see, the switches and the track on the lower level is real tight and real close. And I kept asking him, what are we going to do about scenicking that? And he said, well, I'm going to take care of that. I'm like, okay, great. So I don't think I ever got to see it finished, but you can see the switch machines and all that. They're getting really, really close underneath. And we put tunnel portals up. One of the problems with this particular track plan is once the train goes through, you can't really cross it over going forward anymore because you don't have a way to reverse it. And he didn't have a problem with that either. He was just happy to have a layout that was going to have an upper line and he was going to be able to finish it. And he was so appreciative for the help and the ideas. It was just such a fun time working with this guy. Unfortunately, this man passed away a couple of years ago, and he's not with us anymore, but it's fun to look at the pictures. So as you can see, he had really cute Department 56 buildings. It was kind of a snow scene. That's why the layout was painted white. He kind of wanted it not so much Christmassy, but he wanted to put Christmas into it as we went along. So as you can see, we did everything. And then I gave him the ability to control all the tracks with separate handles. This was a conventional wired layout. And the upper line had a set voltage for the Super Streets, and it just got turned on, and he would run the trolley back and forth. And the two lines down below had separate controls for both lines. And then we built a small control panel so he could run the switches and a couple accessories that he had on there. And then all the lights for the upper buildings and the lower were all set in a relay so we could turn all the town lights off and on. So there's the control panel and the transformers. Everything was supplied by him. He had everything we needed. He just wanted the work done. And there's the control panel. That's got to be one of the very first control panels I built after I built my dad's control panel for his layout. And as you can see, there's two momentary push buttons for the water tower and the little track shanty, and then the town lights and the two Lionel post-war switch machine controllers there.
For everybody that's out there, that's probably got to be one of the most simple ones that you've ever made too.
Yeah, one of the easiest and very simple. I didn't have to do any special wiring. I mean, it was just basically controls on the front and terminals on the back, basically just making it look good. And he was a Burlington fan like me, so we got along real well. So this next layout was started before I started Dream Layouts. I want to say this was probably 12, 13 years ago. This was a restaurant in Oswego, Illinois. And as you can see by the title, there is a video of this that is on my YouTube channel. It has some kind of cool music. It's kind of some Back to the Future music. It was the old trains coming into the modern day age in a restaurant. So let me, there's the picture of the restaurant. It's no longer around. This restaurant went out of business, I would say probably 9, 10 years ago. It's now a medical office, I believe.
I remember going there. We went there once.
Going there, George?
No, I went there once with my dad.
Were the trains running when you went there?
Yeah, I think, didn't they serve them on the trains?
No, they don't do anything on the trains. Nope.
Then I'm thinking of
we've been there.
place.
Yeah, no, we've been there.
Oh, we have?
Yeah, it's up in the ceiling there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I think this was a day I was helping somebody move. Me and my family were, I think, helped my sister get into an apartment, and we wanted to go get some lunch. So we decided this was the closest restaurant to where we were wanting to get something to eat. And so we said, hey, let's try it out. So we go in there, and it had a neat name, Dining Car Restaurant. What did I say it was called? I forgot now. the dining car restaurant. And when we walked in, there was a mural on the back wall. If you guys see in that picture, there's some better pictures coming up, but there was a mural that the artist was there finishing the mural on the back wall of this restaurant. And I'm like, wow, that is so cool. And I wanted to know more about what was going on. And he was painting local names of businesses in Oswego on there. And the owner was there. And this guy that was, as you can see, seated at the table there was the painter. And so we had our lunch, and I got to talking to the owners, and then we got to talk to the painter. And it ended up, I said, you know, this would really be cool to have some actual trains running in this restaurant. So this picture here shows, you can see in the ceiling, there's two soffits that go up in the ceiling with the ceiling fans in them, and there's a little track lighting inside there. And then right below that track lighting, there's a little green band, and there's like a little ledge up there. And I was like, what about putting a couple loops of trains up in the ceiling so we can run trains up there? And I can make it so you can have a remote control fired whistle, so you can blow the whistle on these trains. And I'll do even one better. I'll try and match the trains to your painting, so they match the painting on the mural. So after a little negotiation and going back and forth, and he had just hired a new manager for the restaurant, he said, let's go for it. He called me up one day and says, I got a check for you. Let's do it. So this is the trains we bought. I got two of these. One, and I don't have a picture of the other one, but you'll see it in the pictures. That is a Aristocraft Garden Scale C16. And then you got the cars that go with it that match and I can't remember the name of those cars. I'm at a loss these days. The Overton cars. Those are Overton pasture cars, and those are all made by Aristocraft, which has been out of business now for 4, 5, 6 years, I think. But I took and bought the electronic soundboards to put in there. And this is the first time you're going to hear me admit I worked on trains. I used to work on trains. I don't do that anymore. I have people that do that. So anyway, the whole idea is to build a ledge up there in that soffit and get track up there so we could run these trains. So I built everything at my house, got everything ready to go. So it was ready to go in pieces. And then all I had to do was just kind of size fit it and cut it and put it up there. Most restaurants that I've worked on and done layouts for, is the code there is you cannot just have trains running overhead, especially over people's head or over their table while they're eating, without some sort of a guard. So this one we had to build plexiglass guards for the edge of it, so nothing would come off and fall on the patrons. So this is where this picture shows the plexiglass edging that went in there. So these got all put together. Then when they were all ready to go, we took all the pieces and parts to the restaurant, and we did this install while the restaurant was open. We didn't do it overnight. What we did is we took one soffit area and we curtained it off with plastic visqueen, and we worked inside these spaces hanging the trains while the people were having dinner in the restaurant. And I would put signs up on these plastic curtains that says, we've been working on the railroad. Stay tuned. There's more to come. We're going to be having some fun with trains soon, just to get the excitement going. It was a lot of fun. So anyway, you can see that the shelves started going up, and we started test fitting everything, getting it all, the color was matched with the restaurant. And so what I did now, all my workshop and all my tools were in the back parking lot. I have a portable tent where I can work off site and pretty much anything I need to do. So we wanted to stay out of the wind. We wanted to stay out of the rain and the sun. So I set up my workshop back there. We'd cut all the pieces and we'd take them in and put them up into the soffit and get everything lined up and get it ready to go. As you can see there, we're putting the plexiglass, fitting that back up in there. And so there's the other train that we bought to go in the other. That's a finished loop now. You can see all the plexiglass is up there and the train is running. The headlights on. And what I did is I put all the power supplies up in the suspended ceiling, the drop ceiling. That's a great thing about restaurants and commercial buildings. You can hide a lot of stuff up in the ceiling. But we had the power supplies and the transformers were set. This is DC power now. So all the transformers were set for a particular speed and never had to be changed. And all we had to do is turn on a switch on the wall and these trains would start operating. And then I had originally built the soundboards into the tenders of the engines, and I gave the remote to the management. And so anytime somebody like George would walk into the restaurant and sit down, and they showed any interest, we'd get their interest by striking that remote and blowing the whistle. Well, the owner of the restaurant got a hold of the remote, and he started blowing it so much I had to change the batteries in it about every week. So it ended up I took and changed the whistle command. We put the whistles up in the ceiling, and we would make it go every half hour. So they were every 15 minutes there was a train whistle going off, so it didn't drive the poor employees nuts hearing that whistle go off, which I can handle a whistle, and most of us can, but a lot of people can't. So in this picture here, you can see that the mural here and the train that's up on the shelf is very similar. So we did a pretty good job of matching that up. Now, I bet you there's a few people maybe are asking whatever happened to that mural if this restaurant's not there anymore.
That is a good question. I was thinking that myself.
Yeah, I got to be the guy that got to go in there before they demolished the restaurant and take all the track down, all the train pictures. I got to liquidate that job. I still have a lot of the track and stuff from that job, but I didn't get the mural. The mural was actually painted on a piece of wallpaper. And I don't know for sure, but I was told that that mural could be peeled off of the wall and rolled up and saved. I know the owner spent a lot of money. I know it was close to $20,000 that the owner spent having that mural painted by this professional artist. So, but that was a fun job. I had a lot of fun. And the best part is they had some great breakfast there. I used to love going there for breakfast.
Yes.
So the next one is an ice cream shop. It's actually a gelato and what they call a gelateria and a coffee shop down in Frankfort, Illinois. This was, and if anybody knows Frankfort, Illinois, it's on an old rail line that used to go from Oswego to Frankfort, and I can't remember the name of the path, but it's a bike path. It's a paved bike path, and in this particular area, this is the scale building next to the granary, which is probably the tallest building in Frankfurt. And this scale building was where the trucks would come across the scale and get weighed out or get weighed in when they would deliver grain to and from the granary. And so this building was bought by an owner and wanted to fix it up into a ice cream shop and a coffee shop. And so, as you can see, it took him like 3 or 4 years to remodel this place, but he contacted me and wanted to know what we could do about putting trains up on the wall. So I walked into this place, and I'm looking at the stuff that's on the wall. You see a picture of a steam whistle, and it's got an air compressor hooked up to it up in the attic, and you can pull that when there's or when there's air pressure on that pipe. You can pull that cock there, and you can blow the whistle. And if you don't know what's coming, it's really loud. But he had a regular steam whistle and he had a trolley steam whistle. But that was all part of the fun, and there's a lot more to this, but I'm just basically going to show you some pictures. What happened? I took this job in July, and there was no air conditioning in this place, and it was super hot. And I have to take my job was to hang 2 levels of track on that brick wall and run trains on a program to where they would run automatically. And I'm like, okay, well, so we ended up talking to the carpenter, and we said we have to put up something on that brick wall because it's too uneven. So they put up wood, and then they put up diamond plate. And then once that got put up, then I started putting these brackets up. You can see these little metal brackets that's got the right angle. And we had a machine shop make all these brackets for us and paint them all up. And there, I don't know how many hundreds there were in there, but basically it was a big rectangle. And so once I used a laser to hang all this, and working up in the ceiling in July, it was quite a hot, sweaty job. But those brackets were 12 inches apart, and they had to be drilled and lagged into the wood behind it. And then the track, as you can see, I have a piece of track on that top level. All the track had to be drilled through the bracket, and it had to be tapped by hand so I could get a screw in every single one. So that took me quite a while, and a lot of sweat, but it was well worth it. I don't know if you guys can see in this picture, but about halfway down this run on the lower level, there's wires hanging out where the bracket is. That was our power supply from down in a cabinet that was down below those windows underneath. And all I had to do is get the track up there, tie the wire to the track without the wire being seen. And then everything else was done with MTH engines and command control. And with DCS from MTH, you can do a record playback. So this particular setup was, there was 2 general type style engines that we ran up there, and the cars had advertising from businesses in the local area. And what would happen is I would program these trains. I would run a program on them for about 45 minutes. And in that 45-minute play session, you record. When you're doing record playback with MTH DCS, you record whatever you're doing. You can record it and then play it back. So what I did is I came up and I made a little skit for trains, and I took and ran these trains around the loop and played with them for 45 minutes. And then what we did is we would turn them on and do playback, and then we would run it in a loop. So it'd run throughout the entire time the store was open. Now, you got to remember, trains can't run all the time. Their little engines or little motors will burn out if you don't give them a rest. So I even actually programmed rest times in those playbacks so that I didn't have to worry about the engines burning up, especially up in a hot ceiling. So it ended up, I think over it's about 8 years that I knew the guy, I think we only had to replace the engines the one time. Everything else worked fairly well. So, but it was a fun time. We did a lot of fun there. It was fun to see the kids come in and everybody come in and see the trains running around on the wall.
So how'd the whistle work? Was that active? Could you walk in there and blow the whistle? Is it still going? Is this place still there?
Let me tell you the story what happened. This guy, the owner of this place, when he was going to have one of those, like you go into McDonald's restaurant, the menu's on a big TV screen. Well, he was going to have a thing set up on the screen. The very first kid that came in the restaurant they were going to have every day was going to open up this restaurant or this ice cream shop. And so what we did is we built, and I don't have pictures of it, but we built a control panel on the backside of that column where that big whistle was. And what it is it looks like a Lionel ZW. And I took an old Lionel ZW and we used the handles, and we had all kinds of levers. We did make what our goal was is to make it look like the cab of a steam engine. So we had big knobs, we had levers, we had chains to pull. And what it was is this kid was to take and go through a sequence of different events. Once we turned on the key switch, there was a computer I built underneath that would take and start fog machines going. It would shoot fog out when you blew the horn and the whistles. You felt like you were in the cab of a steam engine. And all this was to take a picture of this young man or young person when they were doing this and put it on the menu board for the day. And that was the kid that opened up the restaurant that day. So we did a lot of work on programmable logic controllers and all that to put all these different devices in. And like I say, I don't have pictures of it or videos of it, but it was a lot of fun, but it was a lot of work. And I don't know if this place is still open. I think they might have closed already. I mean, there's a lot of things that have been closed because of our pandemic. So it's kind of a shame to see this kind of stuff go away, but we've got a few pictures of it. Okay, so the next one is the Lincoln Park Conservatory, which is run by the Chicago Park District. I also have a couple videos, or at least one video on my YouTube, and I think there's other videos out there too that you just do a Lincoln Park Conservatory search on YouTube and you'll find it. But the Lincoln Park Conservatory, I did the holiday train display setups down there for 9 years. They called me from a recommendation or referral from somebody, and I went down and said, they wanted to know if I would be interested in not designing a new layout, but setting up a layout that they had already been built. This layout at the Lincoln Park Conservatory was originally built and designed by a gentleman by the name of Paul Bussey. Paul Bussey is a landscape architect by profession, but he loves trains. And if anybody knows Paul Bussey, I'm sure you could do a search out there and find all these different layouts that Paul Bussey's done. But Paul Bussey did conservatories and park districts and all over the country, and he did casinos. He built some amazing things. I don't know if he's still with us or not. The last I heard, Paul Bussey had cancer, but he is stationed, I think, down in South Carolina or somewhere down in the Carolinas is where his headquarters is. But everything they built was built out of natural twigs, sticks, bark, leaves, nuts, whatever. All the buildings that they designed were built out of natural materials. and they were shellacked, and they put Christmas lights in them. So my first time down there, we had no track plan. We had no idea where all these pieces go. But you can see my crew here. We're working on putting this little section of track together, this little loop with 3 bridges across this little pond. And we had no idea where they went. All we knew is all these pieces of track sections were down in the basement of the conservatory. We had to haul them all upstairs and bring them into the conservatory. Now, as you'll see, that the ponds are painted black. There's no water in them. They would take mostly all the plants out and all the water. So when we got there, it was dry and we got to work. But what they did is, this is all built on 2x6 womanized wood, and it was pieced together, and they made lap sections where you could take and tie these together. So the first year I did it, it was trying to figure out how to put it all back together. Well, this is not the first year I did it. I think this was the second or third year, but you'll see these little tags, these little colored tags that are on the different sections. After we took it down the first year, or when we took it down, we started labeling each section. So we had, because there's 3 loops we did down there. So we would put these colored ribbons on there so we knew which pieces went with which loop. And so it made it easier the second year.
So, hey, Jim, real quick, just not to cut you off, I had a couple questions. One was a DV Tech, and I think that this was aimed at you. How do you actually control things? Do you use something like Arduino or PC relay board interface or anything like that?
Oh, on that last layout?
Yeah, yes.
No, I'm like I say, I'm a commercial electrician. I used what we call PLCs. They're programmable logic controllers. And I buy those in little bricks, and I use a computer program to program the inputs and outputs. You can do the same thing with Arduinos now. Arduinos or Raspberry Pis, but this is a technology. I started learning programmable logic controllers 30 years ago when we would make conveyors run for a business, and they were, you know, the size of your electric panel in your basement. But you can get them as small as they fit in your hand now, and they're real tiny. But you know, the technology, as it changes, there's always something different. I work with Raspberry Pi and Arduino's a little bit here and there. It's basically the same thing. It's just a programmable logic controller that has inputs and outputs. That's how we control that stuff.
Next question was, did you do the Christmas layout at the Chicago Botanic Gardens?
Chicago Botanical Gardens, I had nothing to do with. The gentlemen that take care of that are it's a railroad club, I believe. They're all older gentlemen, and they have corporate sponsors at the Botanical Garden. I think ComEd and one of the big banks in Chicago, or if not one or both of them, was sponsors for that. So they had corporate money to buy the really neat stuff, but the people that put it together were volunteers, and so that was the give and take there. When I did the Lincoln Park Conservatory, they had a budget for trains every year, and so what I had to do is try and keep this stuff working and running as long as possible. And then when something would break down, you know, they had so much in the budget, I had so much to work with to take and fix things. But when we did start at the Lincoln Park Conservatory, all the trains were powered by track power. And anybody that knows anything about garden trains, when you are running trains with water and plants, just like outside, the tracks get dirty, something gets in the way. You always have to clean the tracks because that's DC power again, because it's 2-rail. And DC power, you get a lot of carbon buildup on the tracks and on the pickups. So they had to clean the tracks probably about twice a day. And we had them on a plan where they could use the sanders that drywall guys use for sanding drywall with an extension pole. And we would take and have a Scotch-Brite pad on there. And then we'd have another one that would have a sock on there and would use to dry it off. And after the first 2 years, I said, I got a better plan for you guys. We're going to take and go remote control with batteries on the train. And we came up with a system. The guy that helped us with that was in Iowa. He was one of the guys that builds, I believe, batteries for DeWalt tools. And he was big into garden trains. And so what they did is we would take and have these engines built with a remote control receiver, and the tender or the first boxcar behind the engine would have a lithium-ion rechargeable battery with a circuit in there. And we bought batteries big enough to where we could run the train all day long without having to recharge the batteries or switch anything out. and that was awesome. I had to twist their arm and really squeeze hard to get the Chicago Park District to give us enough money to do that in the budget. But once we did it, it worked great. They didn't have to clean tracks. It was very low maintenance. Our biggest concern with that type of system is when you're running trains like this around a lake, when the train leaves a powered track and goes into the water for some reason, or falls off and goes into the water, it doesn't have any current going through the motor. So I could usually save them. I'd get a call, the train went into the water. I would go down there, I would open it up, make sure it was all dried out and clean. I would check the windings in the motor, and then I would test it and get it back on the track. And we usually didn't lose any engines that way. But my biggest concern was once we went remote control and the train fell into the water, the train's going in live with live current because it's still got a battery attached to it. So
Right.
my biggest concern is what happens if these trains go in the water? Well, before I left, I was trying to get the manufacturer to come up with a circuit that once it would tip over or move in a different direction, we would have a mercury switch that would cut out and not be able to be reset until we actually reset it. And I think they probably come up with something like that by now, but we were still pushing to have something done. But we never lost any trains in the water. We always kept the trains far enough away from the kids to take, and kids love to watch trains, but they also like to see trains go into the water. That's fun too. So
G-gauge trains are not waterproof, huh?
no, there's not any trains that are waterproof. So it always creates a challenge for us, but we like the challenge. It's always fun. This picture we're looking at right now is another loop at the Park District. As you'll see, the stick stands that they had, they were made out of twigs, and they were supports like piers. And there was no plants up there. There's a little river or a little pond or like a little stream that goes down through there where my drill's sitting. And when that's filled up with water, you'd see a waterfall going down the stairs. And on the back fence back there on the lattice, there was just to the left of that, there's a waterfall, and that waterfall would come down the rocks. So we always had to get the track position so the waterfall wouldn't splash and put water up on the track, because that was always a problem for us too. But everything was made out of 2x6 womanized wood painted green. The bridges had some kind of something on them that was made with twigs or sticks from trees to make them look like bridges. And then once this was all done, they would take and put moss on the sides of those 2x6s to cover everything up. And so you can see there, you can see the waterfalls, the stones where you can see the water would come down those stones in the back by the lattice. And they would go under a couple bridges and it would go down the sidewalk. Well, it was always fun when I got a call to go fix something, because I had to go step in the water and step around to try and get to the trains. Once they get it all filled up like this, you can see they got moss on the sides and they got the buildings in there all lit up. And the train, we had I think the first year I was there, they had a box car that had sound in it. You could hear cattle in that stock car.
And those are all real plants and trees, aren't they?
Those are beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. I highly recommend anybody, if you're in Chicago between Thanksgiving and New Year's, definitely get down to the Lincoln Park Conservatory. It's the only one that I know of that there is no charge for admission. The display is free. They grow all their own plants. You can see a couple of the poinsettias there. They grew white and red poinsettias, and they were absolutely gorgeous when they got the place decorated. This is the third loop and the biggest loop of the display. And you can see the water is not there. We had a real hard S-curve coming through that bridge on the right that we had to deal with for quite a few years, trying to get, you could only run certain trains on there. You couldn't run really long trains. But you can see some of the buildings are going in. These buildings, like I said, were all made out of bark, sticks, twigs, anything that's all natural. They were all put together and glued with hot glue, and then they were dipped in a vat of varnish. So they could go in and spray these down all the time and they wouldn't get damaged. And a lot of these buildings were landmarks in Chicago.
Oh wow!
But you can see there the water is out of the guy that one of the Park District employees is standing in the little creek there, and you can see my toolbox, and we're trying to get everything put together and tested. And this was one of the hardest ones we had to figure out, trying to work through all the concrete jungle and the dirt and trying to get everything leveled. So your trains can't just go at it wherever it sits. You have to adjust and use angles, and you can't tip them a certain way, and the grades, and So, but this was, I think, the second year we did this. I rebuilt all that about 6 or 7 years into the project. I rebuilt all this and redid it all. There's another one of the buildings, and you can see the moss. See how they take and attach the moss to the wood, so you don't see anything. You don't see the concrete blocks and things like that that are supported. But there's the kind of the finished product. You can see the vegetation and all the plants in there, and like I say, it's always fun to see the kids, go running down the sidewalk because they hear a train going. It's just awesome. But if you guys get a chance, I highly recommend that they have the show is open between Thanksgiving and New Year's, and it's free to the public. Parking is always a challenge down the city on the north side, but it's well worth the trip down there. So anyway, that's the last picture of that one.
So some real quick questions, and if anybody else has any questions, please feel free to put them up into the stream, and I'll try and get a question into Jim when he's got a lull in the conversation. But my dad, Grandpa George, wants to know. OG George says, do they change the layout every year, or is it the same?
Okay, well that's a good point. I'm glad he asked that question because no, that layout stayed the same design every single year for the 9 years that I did it. I had started talking about 3 years before I stopped doing it, about 6 years in, because we had problems with the kids touching the trains. And I says, well, we got to keep pushing the trains farther away from the path. They would always put thorny bushes where the trains would get close to the walkway or where the kids could reach through it. We would put thorny bushes out there so the kids wouldn't reach through the thorny bushes. But you don't have somebody watching these people all the time. So everybody's got to go on, you expect they're going to be on their best behavior. And they weren't giving me any more money for fixing these trains. And I was running out of options of how I was going to keep this going. And so I told them, I says, and they had dangled a carrot in front of me. They had the Garfield Park Conservatory. They wanted me to build a new display there. But that got put on the back burner because there was a big storm in Chicago that knocked out a lot of the glass at the Garfield Park Conservatory. So I didn't get to take on that project and start a new layout over there. And I left the Park District before they got a chance to get that back on track. But I had a plan for the Lincoln Park, is that we were going to take and run trains overhead. Paul Bussey and some of his stuff that he's done some very long bridges. And I wanted to do a huge long bridge across the main walk path and run basically 2 loops throughout the whole entire section of the gardens where they had the train display. And I wanted to make it modular so it was easy to take down, and I wanted to make it just high enough so people could see it, but they couldn't reach it. And I had put a proposal together, and everything changes in life. My life changed. The people at the Park District, there was new management. A lot of things happened, and we had a hard time putting the last show together. So we kind of parted ways. They found somebody else. They never called me back the 10th year to do it. And at that point, I was kind of happy because they didn't want to take and give me the opportunity to build a new layout that was more maintenance free than the one they had. So,
hey, how come they didn't just put plexiglass on there?
Well, plexiglass doesn't look really good. They didn't want any obstructions to the view because that really takes the view out of it. If you go and look at the videos that I have on YouTube on this, you'll see what I'm talking about. I mean, it's in such a close quarters. And if you were to put plexiglass on there, I know we do stuff like that at train shows, but it's all about the mood and all about the setting down there. It's Christmas time, seeing trains run through the beautiful flowers in the gardens and the Christmas lights on and the poinsettias. It's just something that if you put plexiglass up, it would really ruin the view. You got to see it in person, Wally, to really experience the beauty of it.
Right. I see. I get it.
So that's what happened there. All right. So the next layout is what I call the overhead layout. I have a video of this on my YouTube channel also. It's an onboard camera that shows the train traversing through the layout in the ceiling. It's hanging 12 inches off the ceiling. So this customer I ran into about 12 or 10 years ago. He's in Lincoln Park. This layout is no longer up. But I got called because he had, this is called Interrail. Interrail is a plastic snap together suspension system that uses aluminum rods to hold 1 or 2 track sections off of the ceiling, and they used to use them a lot for restaurants. So you could take it. I had a lot of restaurants that had it, but this was a private owner. He had a double wide suspension system, and he had fast track up on the ceiling, and it was just above his pool table. And you can see the pool table there, and I've already expanded it. But when I first met him, he just had the oval above the pool table. But he wanted to expand it. And some people told him that it wasn't possible. You can't expand that system the way he wanted to do it. Well, hence comes Dream Layouts again. Tell me I can't do it, and I'm going to show you that I can. I've had friends of mine that said this couldn't be done, and that just made me put my mind to it and said, we're going to do it. So what happened is we said that we could take and build a Y on there, and we could go down the hallway. And then on the left side of that picture there, you can see another section coming off there, and it goes along the wall. And that is a 2-track storage yard where you can store trains up in the ceiling. And so we made a Y over there on the right, and trains would go down the hallway. This is looking from the other angle. They would come from the pool table room down there. They'd come down the hallway, and they turned and went into a room that was had an air hockey table.
Dude, I love this. I want this layout so bad.
Yeah. And so there's the Y going off and going down the hallway. And when we first started designing this, he said, well, I said, how far down the hallway do you want to go? And he says, well, how far can we go? I says, well, you got a whole basement down there. Let's go the whole way. And his wife kind of put a stop to that. She said, no, this is far enough. So it ended up, we went down, and now there's the storage track. You can see the line coming along the wall.
Hey, tell me sometimes you have to listen to your wife.
Yeah, sometimes you got to listen because, you want to be happy with trains. In order to be happy, you got to keep the wife happy too.
Hey, first question. There was the first picture there, and it might be this one. Was there a fire suppression control system in there, or was that just no?
I'll take a look here. I don't think so. Not in this house. They had smoke detectors.
Okay. I just.
No, there was no sprinkler system in this house.
Well, that would suck.
So actually, so we'll go there. There's our picture we were at. So what we did now, you can see some of the wires hanging off the switch machines right up there to the right side of the green pool table light. We had a double crossover up there. And so there was 2 loops running around the oval. We had a switch up there on the upper left corner of the picture, and that went around to a storage tracks. And we had a 2-track yard where you could store 4 trains up there. And he liked that. And then on the side of this system, and I don't think I have pictures. You'll see them in my YouTube video, but we put a train station up there next to the crossover. And we put all kinds of buildings and stations that were on platforms off the side of this. And we had Miller signs that were up there that were lit up and flashing as you go by. We had little train stations that had people where you could take the MTH stations where you hit the button, the people go up or go down, and you can tell when you picked up your passengers. So you can see a little bit the double crossover there.
So the question was the brown support, is that handmade?
No, that is injection molded plastic. Those are all made by an injection molding machine. The guy that originally designed this is not with us anymore. The company that had it the last time I bought it was a hobby distributor. I believe they were in California, and they would make the stuff as you ordered it. They would not have any stuff in stock. And so I usually had to wait a week or 2 for it to be made. They tried to get me to buy this business at one time, and I was not interested in getting into the manufacturing business for the amount of stuff that I used. But it's a very good system. And the reason people said that I could not do this is because it was only designed to go in a big loop. It was never made to have any sidings come off it or any spurs or anything. So if you look at it, I went from a single track on that curve to a double track, and I did that all by custom cutting with a saw and using small screws and glue to put it all back together. So I basically was like a trim carpenter putting all that together and making it work and getting it to be supported so it was supported right. So there's a picture where the Y comes off. We had a switch tower up there in that Y, and we had a Miller sign on that. If you notice the picture above see the little sparkle ball above the pool table light? Yeah. Well, this was a party room for this guy. He had a cool jukebox in there. The jukebox had piped to the speakers up in the ceiling, as you can see in this picture. He could turn the lights down. He could put the sparkle ball on, and you could see yeah, well, it's just neat. Running trains. He had a wet bar down there. He had his own bathroom. We had parties down there. This is one of my customers that I still work with. And you'll see at the end of the show, this is the first layout that I worked on. I built another layout for him in this same house that was a switching layout that was on a shelf on a wall that you could lift up and down. And then I just got done building him a layout for his home out in California, and it's a modular out, and I'll show that at the end. But here you can see, yes.
Jim, what's the question comes up? What's the budget on something like this?
Without going back and look off the top of my head, everything we did on this particular project, and now you got to remember what you're seeing is we also had to get wires to this layout. And let me go back a little bit. These closets right here on the left, this first closet, or on the right here, is where all the power supplies were and all the terminals for all the wires. And then over in those cabinets that are just above the sink is where we had the command control. So all the Lionel and MTH command controllers were up in the ceiling. And all he had to do is turn on his remote. This was before they had Wi-Fi, but he did add Wi-Fi to it, and he could run all this off of a smart device. But everything was closed up. All you had to do is go in and go down in the basement, turn on one switch. It turned on the power to the entire layout, and then pick up your remote control and turn on your trains. I think I wired 3 emergency buttons on this layout that were just below on the bottom side of that suspension system, where all you had to do is hit the emergency stop, and it would kill everything instantly. So we didn't have to worry about if something was stuck ready to fall off the track and hit the floor. But what the problem was is we had to get all those wires from those closets up into the ceiling and get them down into special conduits that would get wires out onto the track. So this layout, I think, I'm going to say off the top of my head, it was about $20,000 to $25,000, and that was counting all the extra added suspension system and all the track and all the labor to put it in.
Wow, cool.
So this layout came down a year, not last November, the year before, in November, right before Thanksgiving. He sold this house. He ended up moving. He built a house out in California, and he moved he's got 2 residences now, one in the city of Chicago, and he's got a place out in California. But he is still one of my customers. I'm actually doing projects for him right now. I'm going to show you a project since we're on the topic. I told you he's into the Miller signs and the billboards, and this is for his new layout. He wanted some way to take and do the billboards, the signs. So I created some billboards. I 3D print these billboards so you can see what we can do with Miller signs. Like I say, dream layouts. So there's no stopping what we can do with our imaginations. So he came up with the idea, why don't we do a modern billboard? And I said, great. So I designed it, and I'm making some buildings for his layout in California still. So he's a really, really nice guy. I've known him for about 10 years. He is in the railroad business. He owns a railroad yard down in Alabama, and he's into shipping. So very nice man. So anyway, you can see the stairs coming down there. And so go check out the YouTube video. You can see the train running. You can see a little bit more in the action. And there's the air hockey room, the room it goes in. You can see where it comes in, it loops through the wall, and it loops around the room and goes back out and goes back to the other end. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun building this layout. We had a great time.
That looks real cool. I got that same.
So just a little. I'm sorry. Go ahead, George.
Track system in my bedroom.
Yeah, we all. Yep. Well, we can still do this. I don't know if I can still get this stuff, but you can still hang trains. There's a lot of ways to hang trains out of the ceiling. So this, I told you, we took this layout down a year and a half ago, and he didn't want the suspension system. So I took all the suspension system and I saved it. This layout, this suspension system has now gone up in my father-in-law's house down in St. Louis. My father-in-law is, I think he's 81 years old. His wife is disabled and cannot really move around too well, so she's kind of bedridden. And so what we did is we put this layout in his front room of his house in St. Louis, and with the opportunity to expand down the hallway and into his wife's bedroom, and it's all wired for Wi-Fi control, so they can play trains with each other. He can sit in the front room in his easy chair, and they can play trains. And that's my dream in life, is to sit in my easy chair and play with trains.
Yeah.
Isn't that everybody's goal, to sit in their easy chair and play trains?
That wouldn't be bad. So, hey, there's a question being asked. Do you do these all by yourself, or who helps you out with all this stuff?
Well, there was one gentleman that helped me with this layout. He's since retired, and I've kind of lost track of him. I don't know if he's moved out of the area or not. But a lot of the guys that you see in some of these pictures, I've contacted them. They know they're on tonight. They're probably, I'm hoping they're lurking out there watching some of this stuff, because I've kind of told everybody that I found these pictures and we wanted to show them off. So the one guy there's two guys that helped me at that Chicagoland, at the Park District, at the Lincoln Park Conservatory. The taller of the two gentlemen is the one that helped me with this layout. And the littler, smaller guy is a friend of mine in the electrical business, and he helped me out with some other jobs. So it's basically, I've had a lot of people that are interested in trains that wanted to help me out, and they were good at it. You probably know some of these guys because they're all kind of friends. We're going to get to a layout when we get to Jack Phelan's layout. Jack Phelan's helped me on a lot of layouts over the years too. So how are we doing on time, Wally?
We're doing good. We're doing good. Probably about another half hour or so. A little bit longer.
Well, I can go through this one pretty fast.
So Anthony's saying that layout reminds her of the layout in George's room, just like George was saying. George has got that same system up in his bedroom.
Yep. Yeah. So I put up a few shelf layouts over the years too. I was when my oldest son is oh my gosh, if he's watching now, he's gonna be mad. I think he's 30 or 31. When he was a 1-year-old baby in our first house in Aurora, I wanted to put up an HO train set along the wall of his room, and when he was in his crib going to sleep every night, he'd watch those trains and fall asleep. And I sold that house pretty quickly after we did that, and I was going to have to take it down, I thought. Well, the people that come in to buy it, or were interested in buying a house, saw the train ledge and wanted to know if the trains came with it. And I'm like, well, by all means, the trains will come with it. I don't have to take it down. They said our son would love to watch the trains. So my first house I sold, I had trains on the ceiling like that, and I sold the house because. And how many people out there? I want to ask the older guys. How many people out there say they got to sell their train layout with the house and didn't have to tear it down?
Another question was asked: is do you always work in larger scales like O and G? Do you work in all scales? What mainly?
No, I started out Dream Layouts. I worked in all scales. I would do N scale, HO. I would do garden scale. I would do O scale. I would do standard gauge. I've worked on 7.5 gauge. I've worked on all gauges pretty much. I just quit doing. I quit actually building HO layouts because they were too small for me, and I had so much work in the O scale, 2-rail and 3-rail. I didn't a lot of do any 2-rail, but I did a lot of 3-rail scale layouts. But I couldn't see the N scale anymore. I still like it, and I even have an N scale layout I want to build for myself here soon also. But I got some better glasses. That's what my problem was. So I got some really good glasses. So I could still consult and design train layouts and track plans for people in any scale. I have software that will do any scale. So, no, I started out that way. I just kind of basically left it at the larger stuff because it was easier to work with.
So the same follow-up to that was, what's the biggest Z scale layout you ever made?
The biggest Z scale was, I never worked on a Z scale, but the one I wanted to do was in a Samsonite suitcase.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So
my wife wanted me to build a Z scale coffee table layout with a pull-out drawer with a glass top, and I never got that done for her.
That's great. That's great. Train Finder Craig is asking. He's watching this with great interest. You might remember Train Finder Craig. We had him on a couple weeks ago with the MTH layout. He's asking if you can help him fit that MTH layout in his basement.
I worked on a layout very similar to that. Layout years ago, I worked on the fish tank, the saltwater fish tanks up on the first floor somehow leaked and went through the floor and drowned out the beautiful train layout that was very, very similar to the layout that MTH had in their showroom out in Maryland. And I basically had to go in there and tear all the track up that was rusty and tear it all out, tear all the bad parts out, and put all the new stuff back in and get it all put back together. It was very similar, and I say that is because it was a piece of furniture, and you would have a door where you could climb in, and you would go inside, and then you would just get the guy in there, and then you'd send all the wires down to him, and he'd hook them up for you. And actually, that guy the shorter guy that you saw in the Lincoln Park Conservatory, he was the one. He was small enough to go down underneath there and do all the work for me. He was the one that did that. But yeah, that layout that MTH had was it was built by that place in Miami. I can't think of their name, but they built it like a piece of furniture, and it was very strong and very well built. But yeah, I mean, anybody that needs a help, give me a holler. I mean, if you need any ideas or any kind of suggestions or whatever, I'm always open. I mean, I'm here. That's what I do. I'm trying to keep people running trains. So,
all right. So let's see this layout in Plano.
Okay, this layout.
Don't know this area here. This is right in the stomping grounds where GFW Trains Worldwide Studios is at.
Yeah, this isn't too far. This layout, the guy hired me to take, and he used all Lionel Fast Track. Well, let me preface this first by saying that this guy was, I believe, 91 years old. He just got into trains 2 years before I met him. And he had a carpenter come into his basement and build a layout for him. And then he hired me to go lay all the track, do all the wiring, and build this custom control panel. You see, this is in the back of my full-size Ford pickup truck, so it kind of gives you an idea how big it is. That's the back of my control panels. If you guys ever go anywhere and see any layouts that look like they could be my control panels, all you have to do is look at the back side, and it'll have my business card stuck on there. I would make panels like this where anybody could hook them up, or I would hook them up. But I made it so it was easy to work on. Everything was labeled out the back. So this was basically, I didn't build this layout, but it was a very simple layout. It was one level. He used piers to go up on the fast track piers to make it go up on different grades. And he had all modern Lionel power supplies. And he had the TMCC cab 1, and he also had the Legacy cab 2. And it was all wired in and worked together. I don't have a lot of pictures of this layout, but the carpenter built this, and he put, like we call it, putt-putt golf course felt on top of the deck. And it looked really nice. So all I had to do was lay the track out. There was 24 fast track switches. There was 6 uncoupled tracks. And there was, I think, 10 or 12 powered tracks on the switches. So we could turn them off and on. If you look at the left side of that picture, you can see all the fast track laying on the floor down there. This was the first layout that I worked on that had fast track. And this was, I want to say, fast track is a great track. I love it to death. I use it myself. I use it for holiday displays, temporary holiday displays. But fast track can be, this guy run big boys, believe it or not. He's a Burlington guy, but he ran big boys. And he liked a lot of passenger cars, and it was a real power hog. And I had a lot of problems with the fast track being able to supply enough current in the type of track. The steel track and fast track doesn't have the fabulous conductivity that we want to take and push current through like some tracks. So it was a challenge. We had to do a lot of drops. But you can see here the panel is lit up. I put all those modern controllers on there and wired them all back through there. And obviously they all worked when we got done. But I learned how to wire fast track switches and make them do what I wanted them to do. I had to take a few of them apart and really get into them.
So just real quick, pause on the thought. Got a couple of questions coming through the stream, not necessarily about this one.
Okay.
What do you think is your best work as a train layout, and is that layout still going today?
I just found out yesterday we had a little get together. We have lunch. A couple of us train guys like to get together and talk. And I had lunch with some of the train guys yesterday. And one of the guys that came to lunch yesterday knows this owner. And I asked him if he was still around, and he said he passed away 5 months ago. So I don't know what happened to the train layout.
And where was that at?
This was in Plano.
Okay. Oh, this one here. Okay.
Yeah, this is in Plano.
No, I'm talking. How about your best train layout?
Well, the best train layout. Well, every train layout's the best train layout. Wally, come on.
That's a good answer. Good answer. So follow-up question again, not necessarily about this one. Is Humanity Junction? If you haven't seen his channel, he's got a live stream himself. Is asking, have you ever been to Northlands, New Jersey, or Miniature Wonderland in Hamburg? And what do you think of those layouts?
Well, I've never been to Northlands. I know of it. I've never been there. And I've never been out of this country. Well, I did go on a cruise a couple years ago, so I can't say that anymore. But no, Hamburg, Germany.
Were there any train layouts that you built on the cruise?
No, no, I wasn't allowed to take any trains with me. We went on a cruise. I wasn't allowed to take any train gear with me.
Oh, how boring.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Well, I got to put my feet up on the railing and suck in the sun. So, no, the one in Hamburg, I got to say, as far as train layouts go that I know of, and I've used my dad. We used to have train layouts where we're originally from, up in Northwest Iowa, at the county fair. We used to have a great train layout there, and there was up at the lakes area up in Northwest Iowa. There's another great place up there that had trains that I don't remember a lot about it, but there was a lot of neat train layouts you could stop on the highway and see a lot of times in our travels. And I got to say, the one in Hamburg, Germany, Miniature Wonderland, is got to be by far one of the coolest and most technologically advanced layouts I have ever seen in my life. And that goes and pushes the envelope to where, don't tell me it can't be done, because we will make it happen. And that right there shows you with enough gumption and enough grit, you can do anything you want. The imagination is the limit. If you can dream it, they can do it. And I got to tell you, one of the neatest things I've ever seen on a train layout, and I think it was on an HO layout, and I've been researching this. It is possible, but how to get a guy that's on a bicycle on a station platform without any track. This guy was cycling this bicycle across this platform on a train layout. It was just absolutely fascinating to see the video of that. Well, I do know how they do it. I know how it's done, and I want to do that on some of the things I'm going to do on my layout. I'm actually building my own train layout finally. It's slow in the process because I'm still working on other projects for people, but I am working on a train layout of my own, and it's in the basement of my home. And when I'm done, I'm going to have it open to basically anybody who wants to come over and run a train of any type, because it'll be wired to run basically any kind of train in O-scale 3-rail that you can come up with. Whether
hey, Jim, do you realize what you've just done there?
I know.
George is going to be at your front porch with a tent tomorrow morning.
Well, that's what I need. I need somebody that can go down there and help me wire it, because he's got to learn how to wire too if he's going to get in this hobby.
Oh, first in line. George is going to be first in line. He'll be camping at your doorstep.
Just wait 2 more months, man, and I'll be driving over your house every day.
Well, I'll have to give you the key.
Oh.
So anyway, that's all for this layout. You can see the guy's big Union Pacific Challenger, I think, is in the back there or something. I'm not sure, but he had a lot of stuff. All right, so this layout next is one of my best friends. I call him my second father. His name is Jack Phelan.
Oh, Jack.
You guys know Jack. Everybody in this side of Chicago knows Jack Phelan.
We love Jack. We love
Jack.
Jack.
Know Jack, you've heard of Jack.
And I hope that Jack's watching tonight. If you're watching, Jack, welcome to GFW Trains, where we talk about everything, but mostly trains.
But Jack is the guy that got in. He had trains when he was a young boy. I got to say that Jack actually is one of the guys I told you earlier. Jack is in Classic Toy Trains in a special magazine called Best Toy Train Layouts. And it's a really neat article. My father took the pictures for that layout. They did a wonderful job taking the pictures and doing the article. Roger Karp of Classic Toy Trains wrote the article. And it's basically like a little kid in a candy shop is how Jack tells the story. Because Jack grew up with Lionel Trains in Chicago. And then he got, like a lot of stories go, he grew up, he became involved in dating and going out with women. And then he had a family, he got married, he got a career. And he basically spent most of his adult life without trains. But when he retired, he wanted to get back into trains. And he went to a train show and he started seeing all these neat things he always wanted when he was a kid. So Jack started building a layout. I think it was probably 15 years ago. And he had a lot of people help him before I even met him. And what you're going to see is pictures of the layout that's not complete, but it looks pretty neat what you're going to see. But Jack has done a lot of work. What Jack does is he uses everything post-war Lionel. The trolley you see there is got 027 track underneath it, but he's made it look like a cobblestone street, and he makes all that himself. The telephone poles were made. He uses Department 56 buildings. He uses anything that he can make that fits into the area that he wants. But when I first met Jack, it was where we used to have a Friday night run session. Before we did live streams like this, we would say, hey, somebody wants to get together and play trains, so that somebody would invite us over to their house. And I got invited over to Jack's house, and I walked in there, and I'm not used to playing toy trains like this. I've never really experienced Lionel toy trains. But this layout was so cool and so many accessories on the layout that it fascinated me. But the one problem is a lot of the stuff was not working, or it was in the process of being fixed or trying to get wired or whatever. And so I told Jack, I says, well, give me an opportunity to work on it. And he said, no, I got another guy doing that. Long story short was Jack finally let me work on his first accessory, and that was the Bascal Bridge. I walked on the Bascal Bridge, and we basically tore it all apart and put it back to factory, the way it was done at the factory through the manual, the repair manual from Lionel. And we got the Bascal Bridge working back the way it was. I got a whole new world of learning old Lionel post-war trains. I've worked on every single accessory that Lionel makes. I know the inside, outside workings of it. I know how to get the parts for it. I know how to refurbish the parts. As you see in this picture right here, there's you've got the clearance guard on top of the train. Those are for the telltales that on some cars you have a giraffe car. I think on Polar Express, the younger guys would know the Polar Express has the car that has the hobo that pops up and down.
Yeah.
Well, that's all done by a little special track section that you add, and we added custom clips on the track. So anytime the train would go into the tunnel with that car in place, before it went into the tunnel, it would pop down, and then on the other side, it would hit that same track clip, and it would make that accessory pop out of the car again.
Right now, I'm just going to say this. Jack probably has the best running post-war layout you will ever see.
This is amazing layout. This is all post-war on tubular track. He's got nothing but post-war Lionel.
Yep, he uses 072 on the outside loop, and it gets smaller. He can run, I think, 4 trains at one time on this layout. All the signals work, all the accessories work. Now, don't get me wrong; it doesn't mean there's no problems. You always have problems, especially when you're running Lionel toy trains and they're super fast and they don't have cruise control. Things are going to happen. Things are going to jump off the track. They're going to short out. But knowing all that, when I first started knowing Jack and started helping him rewire, we blew up a transformer because he said, "No, I want it hooked to this transformer." And I said, "Jack, we can't do that. That's not the way it's done." And so I'm touching the wire to the little knurled nut on the back of the transformer, and it's sparking. And I'm like, "Jack, you don't want to hook this up here?" And he says, "I want it hooked up there." I said, "Okay." So I hooked it up, and I walked away from it, and Jack came down 10 minutes later, and there was what we call in the electrical business, smoke got out of the box. And the transformer got fried. And I said, that's when he learned to have a little more respect for what I know in the electrical business, I guess. And he said, "Oh, I guess we should have done that." I said, "No, that wasn't a good thing."
Hey, real quick question. And this isn't necessarily about the layout here, but are you still designing layouts, and then do you use a computer or paper?
No, I don't use paper. No.
Okay.
That's like this. It's like this wonderful technology we're using in front of us to live stream. I love computers. I've always liked computers. Anything I can do on a computer, I'll do on a computer. I do all my track plans on software, on a computer software. I also do all my control panels. They were all designed in computer software that I had set up. Even my jobs were estimated using a computer and doing software that I designed to take and estimate train jobs. So no, I use a computer wherever I can, even making little signs for speed limit signs or building signs. If I want to make brick walls, I can print them on my printer and design them on my computer. I have software to make about any type of building, walls, scenery, you name it, to make it look like real. We use the computer wherever we can. That's a time saver for us.
So someone says here that's an awesome mix of post-war Lionel and goodness, great scenery work. You want to tell the beautiful part about this is the scenery work. It's all post-war Lionel. That's what this layout is. There isn't anything modern on the whole layout. It's all post-war Lionel, with the exception of the electronics, right?
Right. That is correct. Jack said that, you know, you can wire my layout and you can make it all work. And I would get into, well, we have a crossing signal that is supposed to flash the lights back and forth when the train goes by. But with Lionel, it's got to heat up for the bimetallic metal. And it takes forever and it doesn't flash right. And I said, that's just not going to work, Jack. You got to let me change that. So he finally let me change that. We put a circuit in it and it made it flash like a normal flasher would work, but it was hidden under the bench. As long as you can't see it, it was hidden under the bench. That first pictures I showed with the trolley was a bump and go on one end, and it went around the station loop at the other side, and there was 2 trolleys up there. And what would happen is there was a little thing where the trolley would come in and bump in the engine terminal or the engine shed, and then there was a circuit built underneath that would stop that train and time out. So that train would sit there until the other trolley at the other end would get past the switch and be at the station and stop to let the passengers off, and then the other trolley would take off and go the other way. So it was a total automated trolley system where you could run 2 trolleys without them hitting each other, going around back and forth. So everything that was built, and basically I've started over on this layout. We totally rewired the entire layout. We rewired and made all the accessories work. This has the Lionel transfer table. It has the Baskel bridge. Now see this picture here. There's scrapyard here, and there's guys scrapping metal and working on stuff. And right where that guy with the cap was, it's out of focus. That has got a blue welding circuit in there. One of the first things I did for Jack is I put a little blue welding circuit inside that thing, so it looked like there was a welder in there scrapping that car. He also had a radio tower up on the mountain, and it never flashed right. I said, well, let me put an LED circuit up there and make it flash like a radio is supposed to flash. So we did that. But everything on his layout actually works. All the signals, all the stop blocks. He's got crossings where the trains will cross each other, so the trains don't crash into each other. We've got them lined up with a block circuit underneath, and there's a whole bunch of relays. And it's basically whichever train gets into that block first to hit the crossing has priority over the other train, and the other train will stop. So it's basically the same kind of circuit you guys would remember as like on a game show where they're all hitting the buttons, and whoever hits the button first gets to answer the question. That's the same kind of logic that goes into the first train in the block circuit. This building right here was the last piece of real estate that Jack had on his layout. And
that looks familiar, the county jail.
The county jail, yeah. And on the back side, I don't have any pictures of it. But
I've had to charge up a couple times there.
Yeah. On the back side of this, past that big gray wall there, is the prison yard. And there's German Shepherds running around between the chain link fence, and you got guards up in the tower, and you got inmates. Well, if you look in this picture right by those cones there, towards the right side of the picture, there's a couple deputies standing there with rifles, and you got what they call the chain gang working on the rock pile there. That's Jack's little fun that he has. And then you've also got a work crew working in the street there. But that bus and that yellow ambulance, I think he cut those in half. They're not full length, so it made it look like there was a parking garage. You could go in and park in there. Oh. But this was a vacant real estate for a long time, and I said to Jack, nobody's ever seen a prison on the layout. Let's build a prison. So I got him going, and then he designed the whole thing by himself and built it and painted it, and that's what you see.
So, Jim, slowing down here just a little bit. No, that's all right. So we've got a lot of electrical/electrician questions coming at me.
Okay.
So the first one is, where would you find a single LED flashing circuit?
I build my own.
Okay. So DB Tech, if you're looking for one of those, reach out to him. His website is in the description for the video below. And also I put it up on a couple of times on the chat here. So second one is a lot of electricians seem to know or seem to focus on high voltage. It sounds like you also get into the electronic side. Are you a low voltage networking guy at work or a high voltage?
I am what I do is I'm what they call an A-card inside construction electrician. I had 5 years of school through an apprenticeship program in the local county where I took my schooling. and we learn everything from basic theory of electricity to wiring everything from 0 volts to high voltage. I've worked on everything up to over 12,000 volts. We also learned fiber optics. Even fiber optics doesn't carry a current, but it had to do with networks. I've done a lot of fiber work down at the Chicago Board of Trade and all through the city of Chicago underneath the tunnels and down in their bridges. They teach you how to bend conduit, run all kinds of wires, all kinds of stuff. So I've worked on everything, but I've worked on networks. I've worked on digital phone systems. The only thing I've never worked on is traffic lights, but I worked on a lot of big projects in Chicago. I've got a 4-page resume just for my past experience, some of the things I worked on, and that's my security life, you know, where I can make money and have a nice place and family. But my hobby is trains, and I take that knowledge that I gained being an electrician and I put that into the hobby. And I've always had an interest in electronics. I'm not an electronics genius by no means at all, but I can muddle pretty good through with the best of them. I have a lot of people that I can take and get a hold of when I get stumped on electronics, but I've been getting a lot better at it in the last 20 years. I teach kids how to take and do electronic circuits, simple electronic circuits. I've got a lot of circuits that I keep in my shop for kids that are interested in learning electronics. If kids want to learn electronics so they can get to do some of this stuff, I used to teach the kids how to do the electronics. I got all kinds of neat kits to show them how to do that. So there's a lot of things. If you're good at it, you can either self-teach yourself, or you can have somebody like me or somebody that knows it to teach you. And that's what's the great thing about it is.
So another question is, have you ever used, and this is totally beyond my pay grade here, have you ever used a step-down transformer for 120 volts, step down to 24 volts DC to run track power for constant voltage?
I've never done that in the trains. I've done that at work for a lot of projects I do in my career, but I've never had to because there's always been somebody else that's already designed a transformer. You got to remember, when I'm doing work for people, I cannot really, just like when I'm an electrician, I can't put something in that's not going to be safe. It's going to cause a fire or burn their house down. So basically, whatever I put together and wire, it has to be safe. I don't want to get a call from the homeowners saying their house burnt down and it was from the train layout, and there's a liability with the insurance company. That's why we use transformers that are UL listed when we build a job. This layout that you're looking at, as a matter of fact, it's got post-war transformers on there. Everything is post-war on this layout. You'll see the ZW sitting on both sides. You can only see the one. But if you look at the control panel there, it's bordered in red, and at both corners there's a little black rectangle. Those black rectangles are 6-amp thermal circuit breakers for all the outputs of the transformer. And so those were wired in to protect any short circuiting going out, and it was to protect the trains, but it's also to protect the transformer so it doesn't burn up. And so anywhere I can add circuit protection so we don't have problems like that. One thing I want to add about this thing is a lot of people
when you play trains.
A lot of people don't understand that the styrofoam you see people use for scenery, that styrofoam that people use for modeling their scenery and making their mountains and all the different things we use on train layouts is very flammable. And so anytime somebody would use styrofoam on their layout, which is fine, you need to get it painted. You need to paint it so it's not exposed. If you get a spark that hits that styrofoam, it will catch on fire and burn your layout down very fast. So that's one of the big concerns I was always worried about doing train layouts with people, is make sure you cover up that styrofoam if you have any short circuits around it. There was a guy down in Florida had a layout that was suspended in the ceiling of his garage. He left his post-war transformer on, went in the house to get something to eat, and he came back and his garage was on fire and 2 engines were burning. And that was because a spark, the transformer somehow sparked the styrofoam, caught the styrofoam on fire, and almost burned his house down. So you got to be real careful. It's all about safety when you're working with electricity.
George, note to self: we can't have an O-gauge fire next to our styrofoam mountain.
All right.
George is a little worried I was going to say something that would embarrass him.
Well, like I say, it's okay to use styrofoam, but you want to do it so it's safe. You just got to know the things what you're working with. You have to know there's actually a warning label on the styrofoam. If you read it, it'll tell you how flammable it is. And a lot of people don't believe me until they look at it and say, "Oh wow, look at that." Anyway, that's the last picture of Jack's layout. But Jack, I'll show you pictures farther down the road if we get that far. But Jack, I got some pictures of Jack helping me on some of the layouts. All right, so this one here, do you want to keep on going?
Yeah. Let's see where we're at after this layout. I love it. It's a great flow to the stream. Got a lot of people watching. So yeah, let's rock and roll, dude.
Okay, so this was, as you can see by the title, this was a high rail layout in Lincolnshire, Illinois. It's no longer there. The owner, I believe, is watching tonight. So if he's out there, hi, Doug. This was, I met this guy at our local DuPage train show. I had built a panel for my dad's layout. It was a passenger yard panel. And he saw it on an online forum, and he was trying to find me because I said I could build this panel for a certain price. And so he found me and said, hey, can you build this panel for me? And I'm like, sure, no problem. Can you build it for that price? And I'm like, once I got to see his layout, this gentleman had built the layout with the help of another HO modeler up in Wisconsin, but he basically designed a track plan and built most of the layout himself. And he'd had it up for about 8 years before I came over to look at it. He had never finished the track. He had never wired it. He never run any trains, but he had all the scenery already done. This mountain was built. I mean, it was gorgeous. And this, at the time, was the biggest layout that I've ever worked on in my life. I want to say the main line was 267 foot long, and it was a 2-track main line. And he wanted the whole thing. It was all done in Gargraves track and raw switches, and there was 117 switches on the layout. I'm sorry, it was 87 switches on this layout. And they were all to have tortoise motors installed.
Wow, look at that.
So that is the freight yard there. I don't have a lot of pictures of this. Basically, this is shows the biggest panel I ever built. But he wanted all tortoise motors, and he wanted them all for the slow motion. So we had to install, he finished installing all the track. I started working on installing all the tortoise motors and started working on a track plan because he wanted to run command control. So we had to wire it for MTH DCS, and we had to wire it for Lionel Legacy and TMCC. And I wired all the main lines in variable channels because this is a gentleman that wanted to run still some post-war or non-command control engines still on his main lines. And so I gave him that option, and we ran him on the variable channel outputs so he could take and change that and run it with his remote and run what we call a Z4000 remote, and he could control the voltage. And so when we did that, he didn't like all the problems that it took to get from one setup to the next setup. It was too technical for him. So he decided to go all command control. He left it all at that, and he sold all of his engines that were conventional.
Oh, really?
Yep. This is one of the coolest parts of the layout. This is the Diablo Canyon Bridge, a model of the BNSF Diablo Canyon Bridge. It's all built in laser cut masonite. It's a 2-track, and it has a little bit of a curve at the far side of it. And the scenery they built this in was absolutely gorgeous. This thing went almost all the way to the floor. But to watch trains go across this bridge was just amazing. He still has this bridge. We dismantled the layout and tore it apart about 4 or 5 years ago, and it ended up in a 30-yard dumpster. But we reclaimed as much as we could of the layout. Oh, look at there! There's a guy that's
an acrobat from a circus.
So this layout, I spent, I don't know, I got to say a couple years off and on working on this layout. I basically wired the whole layout for him. I built 7 control panels. This is the biggest control panel I ever built.
Look at that.
Dang.
Now this panel has got turntable and transfer table control. It's got multiple roundhouses. It's got all the little orange boxes on there are all accessories to activate accessories. It has special control for the crossovers. It has special control for all the track power. And it also has indicator lights on the panel to show you all that. On the left side of that panel, you'll see it says electrical controls. Being an electrician, I can work with that high voltage. So I get to work on the high voltage on train layouts too. This was to be able to control all the lights in his basement. He could walk up to this main control panel and he could flip on the lights to turn on the ceiling fan to get the smoke out of the room. He could turn on the layout from here because I piped and wired the entire layout so there was power throughout the entire layout. So when you turn on the layout, there's a little green indicator light that would come on and say your layout's on. And I did that multiple places around the layout. So it wasn't just one place. I wired it so you could turn it on here and turn it off at the other side. And I think there was 5 different locations we could take and turn it on and off the layout. How many times you've been working on a layout playing trains and your train goes off the track or something and you want to shut off the power right away? Well, with this, you've got multiple panels around the layout where you can run and shut that power off. And it was so convenient. This is me working on it. This is my old office and computer back in the old days. There's some of the wiring that started going into this.
Wow. Wow. Hey, real quick, a question came up. Do you use infrared sensors, photo sensors, or reed switches for your controls?
I used to use reed switches on garden scale and in HO stuff. I don't use reed switches much anymore unless I'm doing an alarm system for somebody's house. What was the other question? IR sensors. Well, when you go in, there's different kind of sensors. I don't use the raw sensors. I'll use the manufacturers. Some manufacturers have good sensors and some don't. A lot of these infrared sensors are activated or distracted by overhead light. I know that MTH used to make some signals that we used on that overhead layout you saw on the ceiling. And the signals were activated by an infrared. You would go by the infrared sensor, and when you turned on the room lights affected the sensors. There's different types of sensors that you can use. Some are there's different. And right off the top of my head, I can't think of it. One's passive and one's something else. But they have. You want to use the right type of sensors if you're going to have any outside light that's going to affect those sensors, because you don't want your train to go by and the signals are already activated because you got too much room light. But there are different companies out there that make sensors that you can use for that.
That's cool.
So anyway, this is me with my little Lionel transformer, and I'm testing the LEDs and testing the thing as I go. All my panels were guaranteed to work. They're all tested when they went out the door. Last thing you want to do is build a big panel like this, and you get it on the job, and you got something that doesn't work, and you got to tear it apart on site and do surgical repairs on the panel while it's sitting there. So that's the back of it. You can see the diamond plate that I put on the electrical controls because they had dimmer switches in there, and dimmer switches create heat. So I had to dissipate the heat by electrical code. I had to build it so it was worthy of being able to dissipate enough heat so the switches wouldn't burn out. Those 2 cables hanging out the back are the data cables that come off the Ross turntable and transfer table controllers. And then you can see all the terminal blocks with all the legends on there. There's the panel installed on the layout.
Wow, that's cool.
It was pretty cool. And then in this particular location, there was another panel directly behind you that was almost as big as that controlled all the freight yard. This was a massive,
right?
I built all these panels, yes. And you can see all the tortoise motors laying up on the bench there.
Oh yeah.
Now, if you guys want to see this video, I don't have any YouTube videos of it, but this was a TM video, 21st Century Great Layouts #1 by TM Videos. He is one of the featured layouts. I think he's the first layout on the DVD. So this layout was preserved on video so it could be seen, but this layout has been demolished and has been taken out. Okay, so we're at the next layout. How are we doing, Wally?
Well, we're right there about at our time limit, Jim. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
How many layouts do you have left?
Well, let me take a look here. Let's see. I'm gonna say we got 1, 2. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got 6 layouts left out of 14.
And not only that, but we haven't even talked about your train car yet.
Yeah, that's I know we wanted to talk about that. We could find a place where we don't want to stop this. I mean, I appreciate all the questions, and I can't wait to talk to some of you guys. Like I say, this is the greatest hobby in the world. There's no hobby better than this one, as far as I'm concerned. It takes the love that we have of trains and lets us do all the great things that you can do. I mean, you can learn how carpentry work, you can learn electrical work, you can learn painting, you can learn electronics, model building. I mean, and then there's history involved in this. I mean, these models that we play with on our trains, a lot of these models are based on real life, and I was watching a stream George was on with Crossed Anchors one day, and you guys were talking about auto racks, and I'm like, that is awesome. I mean, how do you learn about this stuff? I mean, other than go be like me, spending my whole entire lifetime in trains trying to dig this information out and talking to people and talking to railroad people. I love that stuff. I mean, this is what keeps people going. They want to say, well, why is that piece on the engine? What is that for? What is this piece on the car? What does that do? Or how do they stop trains? Or how do they make trains go? I mean, there's so many different things that there's questions out there. And I bet you everybody's got questions about trains. And that was what I told you last week, George. And we didn't have time, but I said you were going to play Jay Leno and you were going to try and stuff the train man with a question. Because being working in the model trains and working in real trains, I work on real train cars and I work on real engines, and I get to know a lot about everything and how they work and how they operate and run. And so that makes it neat because I can take like a train that you see behind me up here, to CTA train, and I make CTA trains run on the layout that I was about ready to show you. And I make them programmed so they start and stop, and you can hear all the sounds, and it's just so neat, all the different things you can do. So I'm just really excited to show this stuff because I've taken what I've done over the last so many years, and just what I've shown you so far is such a small portion of what I've done.
I know that's the exciting part about it. That's Jim. That is truly the exciting part about it. And we've got, unfortunately, George and I have to get up tomorrow morning bright and early, and he's already yawning. Look at that.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna make me yawn, George.
Yep. Well, George and I, we got a camp out we're going to. We should be there tonight, but we're so excited to have you on the stream. We didn't go out there with the troop tonight, so we otherwise we'd be talking here probably till about 1 o'clock in the morning.
Right. Well, I tell you, why don't we leave it this way, Wally? I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions that I'm going to have to go across and look at some of this stuff. But that might give us a little fuel for the next time we get together. We can answer some of these questions, and we can kind of plan to finish showing the rest of the pictures of these layouts. I've got, just to give you a verbal preview, I have a layout that has an elevated CTA line that has some awesome buildings from Chicago. It has a replication of the Conrad Hotel. That's a beautiful model of the Conrad Hotel in downtown Chicago. And it has CTA trains running around it. It's in the basement of a funeral home, by the way. And then I have a replication. I built a Lionel display layout from the old dealer layouts where the dealers could buy the train layout, set it up in their hobby shops, and all they had to do is put trains on it.
I'm sorry, Jim, not to cut you off. There are some questions about that funeral layout. Is that the home of the dead rail?
Well, the guy is still around, so we'll have to ask him. I hope he's on tonight, so he might be on watching us.
And then the next question, the follow-up question to that was, does he like to run deadheads around the layout?
Well, I got to tell you, being in the funeral home business for over 30 years, he does have a grave site where they're digging a hole for somebody on the layout.
There you go.
By the way, I'm going to tell you on this public forum that I talked to the owner a couple days ago of that layout, and he has invited both you and George to go down and take a look at the layout and videotape it if you want. So we got to set up a time to go down and show you guys that layout.
Oh yeah,
so,
fantastic! Cool. Another GFW trains, John.
That's right.
So anyway, so I have a couple different layouts to show you. I have that overhead layout that was in the ceiling. The very last layout that I have on here is a modular layout I built for the owner of the overhead layout in California. We built it here in Chicago, and we shipped it out to California in January of this year. So I have pictures of that in progress. That's a layout that I built from design to finish and install. And I'm still working on projects. I showed you the billboard. I'm working on building some buildings for him. I use technology wherever I can. We said earlier, do you use computers? I do. I use computers to do 3D printing. I love it. I design whatever I want. I put it on the printer, and it prints out the part for me. So that's what this is all about, learning this neat technology. I mean, it's not just plaster and chicken wire and, wood anymore. It's more than that, and it's so much more. So there's so much you can do in this hobby. So I've got a lot left to show, but we can talk about some of the questions. And, if you want to get into talking about what I do in real trains the next time, if we got time, we can do that too, because I've got some great news coming up on some car I worked on that I worked on an old passenger car, and I found out today there's some great news coming forward on that. And I would love to expand on that too if I have more information. It's going to be awesome.
Right. Well, hey, really cool. not to put any pressure on you, but hopefully we'll be able to have you back next week if I can talk you into that, Jim.
Be my pleasure, Wally. Be my pleasure.
All right. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. If you're here and you want some more of Jim Williams and Dreams Layouts, he'll be on next week. We'll be on at 7 p.m. when we have been always doing the live streams, right, George?
Yes, sir. 7 p.m. Central.
And so there you go. Jim, it was so great having you on today. Oh, real quick, Mike Mellon, who's a good friend of ours, wanted to know if you could just have a couple of quick teasers on Howard's layout. I know that Mike.
As a matter of fact, I'm glad you brought him up because I said hi to him. I saw him come in on the live stream earlier. Mike Mellon was the gentleman that helped me with the funeral home layout. And I have pictures. You can see Mike Mellon sitting up on top of this layout. I'm going to tell you a funny little story. When we got to this layout, he hired me to take and rewire the layout so it would work with command control. And we got there, and his elevated CTA rail line at the time was all made out of plastic and was falling apart. So we had a section of the layout that was in the back right corner of the layout, and it was all kind of rusty. Remember I told you about the fish tank that leaked and they got all the track rusty? We had to rebuild all that. Well, when you work in the basement of a funeral home and the back end of the layout is all corroded and it's all rotted and the wood's really warped and then the track's rusty, you say, well, to the owner, well, what happened here? Well, we had a leak up in the morgue. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't ask what was leaking. I was hoping it was water, but we actually had to cut the back end of that layout totally out and rebuild it. And so we could
smell like bacon.
Huh?
Did it smell like bacon?
Well, anybody that's worked on an old layout in a basement, the smells we kind of encounter. It's a basement smell.
Not bacon smell.
Not bacon smell. It's a basement smell. And so I didn't want to know anymore. We had the mask on. We had the gloves on. We got rid of all the bad stuff, and we rebuilt it. But Mike helped me on that job. He did a great job for me. He did all the painting and the engineering of putting the elevated rail up. And when we continue on with this, you'll get to meet Mike Mellon in some of the pictures. So,
the Howard just asked to see the cemetery.
What about the cemetery?
Howard on here.
Howard, right there. Howard Brookins.
Just Howard's on there. He wants you. You gotta pick the cemetery.
Right. He has a cemetery on the layout, and he has a animated accessory. He's got he's got a couple hearses on the layout. So you got to have a hearse if you're going to take the casket to the graveyard. He's also got a backhoe and a section where they're got the backhoe digging a site for a burial plot. So he keeps it interesting. He's got a lot of neat accessories. He's the only layout that has 2 operating fire stations on the layout, and we actually we got those working. We had somebody from the Chicago Fire Department come down and look at his layout, and he gave him a junior fireman's badge, I think, for having 2 firemen. We actually ran the trains and operated the 2 fire stations on his layout. So Howard is a wonderful man. I've known him for quite a few years. He's got a great heart, and he's got a lot of trains. So
you have a picture of that graveyard that you can share? Because we'll have to get one.
I don't have a picture of it on my.
No. Howard, you hook us up with a picture that we can get in that show for next week.
Yeah, I don't have any finished pictures. I was trying to get his layout done so we could get TM Videos to take some videos of it, but it never worked out. And he never got a magazine article, nothing like that. But he has a lot of stuff, and he's got a lot of neat stuff going down there. You guys will be the first ones to videotape it and show it on a live forum if that's possible when you guys go.
Fantastic. And Howard, my dad is piping up on here, and this is something that I'll probably be in charge of because he won't be around any longer. And I know that you're the perfect guy to ask for this.
I'm the end scale guy.
So, my dad wants to know if you could get an operating end scale layout in his casket.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
All right.
No problem. Does he want to? How does he want to run it though? Does he want to run it through Wi-Fi or does he want to run it through conventional?
Wants to run it through the heaven.
Yes. So yeah, so if you two could get your brains together on that, I'm sure that'll be something that we'll have to coordinate. Hopefully not anytime soon, but it'll be in his will. So if George wants to get his trades, he's gonna have to.
Howard's gonna send one in for you.
Great.
We can make that happen. That's right, Howard. We can make it happen. Dream Layouts makes it happen.
Right. But we did learn tonight you can't have any styrofoam in the casket, though, if that's going on.
As long as you can have it anywhere you want, just don't let the sparks hit it.
Right. Well, hey, everybody, on that note, thank you for joining us this evening. And Jim, thank you so much for coming on. It's going to be awesome having you on next week. Sounds like we got some great layouts to watch next week. So if you're here and you love this, come back next week. Friday night, 7 p.m. We'll be here.
My pleasure, guys. It was good joining with you tonight. Good talking trains.
Right. And if you haven't already, please do us that favor. Smash that like button, 1. And then 2, what I want to do is encourage everybody that's here. I talked about this a little bit earlier in the stream, but we've got a really, really, really cool corner of YouTube here in our hobby that's creating content on YouTube. And it's really important that we support each other in doing this. There's some neat hobbyists, and through the stay-at-home, we've all been able to kind of coalesce as a group. So check out everybody's channels here. Check out all of their content, like, subscribe, and hey, let's keep this synergy rolling. Let's keep this this coolness of this community that's coalesced on YouTube in the railroading hobby going. So yeah, on that note,
see you around the roundhouse.
Don't let the caboose get you on the way out. Thanks again. We appreciate it. And thank you again, everybody who's joined us on the stream. We'll see you next week, 7 p.m. Be there.
Or be square.
Right on. Good night, everybody. Have a great weekend.